Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. I apologize for being a couple minutes late. We were having some technical difficulties, but we're glad to be here now. It's a beautiful Friday morning. As you know, I'm a sales coach and trainer, and I founded the Sales Pro Network to be a place where salespeople can elevate their profession, learn how to sell more effectively, make more money, ask questions, get coaching, share their successes and challenges. And every Friday at 10 a.m., we either do a live interview with somebody or a training. And today we've got both. So not only am I excited that the nice weather is here, many of you know I live a block from the ocean, and I'm pretty excited about this, but I'm also really excited about today's guest. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Julia Pimsleur. Almost mispronounced your name there, Julia. Good morning.
That's all right. Good morning, Jeff Goldblum.
There we go.
There we go. There we
go. Good morning, Steve Kent. It's good to see you, Steve Kent. If you're watching us live, please do say hello in the chat. If you can connect your Facebook to StreamYard so we know who you actually are. And if not, just say who you are when you say hello. During Julia's presentation today, and she's got really something terrific for us on mindset. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. I'll try to interrupt her and we'll get her going. So give me just a moment to share my screen so that Julia can take over. Hang in there, Julia. Okay, I think we've got it.
Well, and Jeff, when we connected in that Clubhouse chat room, we were talking about closing and what it takes to close. And so today I'm going to be talking about mindset, but it's in the view of closing more. So I'm a scaling coach and a mindset expert. And I wanted to focus today on mindset because I'm sure you're giving everybody all the practical, tactical tips, and I'm sure mindset is part of that. But today we're going to take a deep dive on what I call the Go Big mindset. I have a new book out called Go Big Now, and if you're curious to get more mindset tips, you can read that, but you're going to get a little taste of it today. Slide.
Perfection.
Awesome.
So take it away, Julia. I could not figure out how to let Julia share the slides, so Julia will occasionally be giving me a nudge to share the screen. I'm sorry, to advance the slide.
I'll just say slide. How does that work, Jeff, if I say slide?
Perfect. Take it away, Julia. It's all yours.
Thank you. So this is the Go Big Mindset with scaling coach Julia Pimsleur. That's me. Here we go. A little background about me. I am the founder of $1 Million Women. We are helping 1 million women get to 1 million in revenues. So I teach women to scale up their businesses. Typically, they come in with $100 or $200 or $500,000 business, and we're helping them get to 1 million faster. I started this social venture because I built a company called Little Pim, P-I-M, like my last name, Pimsleur. And you can see a little inset photo there. It was a language teaching business for young children to learn a second language at the age they learn best, which is 0 to 6. And my adventures building that business inspired me to want to help more women go big in business. So that's been the theme of my career, although I'm now coaching men as well as women. And as you probably know, if you're watching this, you cannot take the sale out of scale. So I'm helping people scale up their businesses in part by getting better at sales. So I was delighted when Jeff gave me this opportunity to come talk with you all about sales. I'm also a trained NLP coach, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It's a rapid change psychology method. And you can learn more about all of that in my books, $1 Million Women and Go Big Now, if you're curious. This is just a quick high level slide. Since today is about sales, I thought I'd show you some of the sales training that I've taken when I was looking to get Little Pim up into the multi-millions, my language teaching business. I realized I had a lot of passion, I had a lot of drive, I knew how to talk, but I didn't necessarily know how to sell. So I took all these sales trainings and I have sold over $20 million of products and services. So that's what got poured into today and what I'll be teaching you. I'm getting a big echo feedback, Jeff. Are you getting that too?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Well, let's keep going. Hopefully no one's getting a big slide. So when you're looking at mindset and sales, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what do I believe about sales? What are my thoughts and beliefs about sales? And if you're already in a sales training program, perhaps you have some positive beliefs about sales. But if you don't, then we're looking for what can we move out of the way so that you can go into sales more excited, more confident, and in a spirit that's going to allow you to really connect with your potential client or customer. So what I hear from a lot of people is when they think of sales, they think of being out of integrity or sleazy, or they kind of picture like a used car salesman or someone, trying to knock on the door and book their way into your house to sell you something. That's all kind of the old model of selling. And we are teaching, at least in my programs, and I'm sure Jeff too, the new ways of selling, which are much more about how to connect with people and how to serve them. But do take a moment, if you have the chat, to put in the chat, what else are your thoughts and beliefs about sales? Because we're going to be digging into this in this little workshop to see how those thoughts and beliefs influence your results. Can I see the chat, Jeff? Is that something I'll be able to see?
I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but hello to LT Montgomery. Hello to Facebook user, whoever you might be. Good morning, Don Levine. And good morning, Steve Kent again. And I am hearing a little bit of that feedback now. Sorry, I don't know how to get rid of it.
Okay. Is there anyone writing in the chat what their thoughts and beliefs are? If so, would you read them out loud?
Nobody's put anything in there yet. I think we should keep on going.
Okay, next slide. So when you're looking to have more successful results in sales, you have to make sure you have the right set of beliefs about sales. And so I call this your new beliefs, because most people who come to me don't like sales and are not good at it. That may not be your case, but you can always improve your mindset around sales. So the new beliefs that I teach, slide, are really to trade selling for service, which means just to get rid of the whole notion that you're selling to people and think of every single interaction through the lens of how can I serve this person? How can I help them see things they might not have seen? How can I help them ask really important questions that are going to lead to answers that will help their business or help them grow professionally? And then at the end of these great questions, perhaps you will work together and you'll be able to continue to serve them in a way that, advances their career or their business even more. Let's go to the next slide. And so if you click, there's some things that are going to come down below new beliefs about sales. There we go. So these are the new beliefs about sales that I encourage you to adopt. So sales is really about serving people. It's about helping them to get rid of some big problem they've been living with for a long time. And how can you help them solve that? And also to kind of save them from working with someone who would not serve them at the same high level that you would. All the women we work with in our programs are doing incredible things for their clients, really giving 180%. So I'm going to assume you're doing that too. And that's not necessarily true of all the competitors. So if we don't get into this positive mindset around sales, you might blow the sale, and then the person might go sign up with someone else who's not going to serve them at that high level. So that's an important belief to have going into every single call or meeting. And lastly, this is an opportunity for you to share what you're good at. Right? If you're in sales, it's because you're really good at something. Maybe you're good at helping people see things they can't see or understanding opportunities. So every sales conversation is a chance to just share those gifts and talents. And if you talk to any high-performing salespeople, chances are these are some of their top beliefs. Slide. So once you've made these shifts, you're going to be a lot more comfortable having these thoughts and being able to go into every single sales call excited, trying to see if it's a fit, and not this kind of win-lose situation that people previously used to think of. Slide. And here's how this works, is that I came up with this acronym to help you understand why your thoughts are so important and how they influence your results. It's called TBear, T-B-E-A-R, and I teach this in my book, Go Big Now, but I'll give you the mini version here because it's really a game changer. So if you look at the results you have in your life, let's go all the way to the right and look at the R. The results that you have are really just because you had certain thoughts over and over again, and they crystallized into results. And here's how that works. If you have a thought over and over again, like let's say, I'm being out of integrity when I'm selling, or people don't like being sold to, or selling is the part I have to get out of the way so that I can do the thing I love and actually deliver the products or services. If you think that over and over again, that's going to become a belief. And every belief has either a positive or a negative emotion attached to it. If you're thinking sales is sleazy and I'm out of integrity, well, that's a negative feeling attached to that belief. And if you have that belief, well, what kind of actions are you going to take? Now we're in the A. Are you really going to make a lot of cold calls? Are you going to, go to the mat for every single client? Or are you going to kind of back off when it feels uncomfortable? You're probably not going to take the kinds of actions that someone would take who's really excited about sales and sees sales as serving. And then we get to the R. What kind of results would you get? Not closing as many deals, not feeling as good about going out selling, and probably not making the high revenues that someone who has a great belief about sales would be making. So if you want to make any big change in your life, and this works for any result you're trying to change up in your life, you have to go all the way back to the T. Have a new thought, water that thought over and over again, almost like a little sapling you plant in the yard, right? And then it could get blown over by the first big storm. But if you water it and you tend to it, it will become an oak tree, a big, strong tree, like a belief with a positive emotion attached to it. You'll be taking entirely different actions than you would have with that other negative belief, and you'll get very different results. We're going to go to the next slide.
Before we do that, Julia, did the echo get taken care of?
I think it's better. Yes. Did you fix something?
I have to mute my mic. That's what it is. Okay,
that's
great.
what it is. Thank you for finding that. Yes, much better. Slide. Super. And I think you have a cursor right on the screen. Maybe you could, oh, that's my cursor. There we go. I moved that. All right. So when I talk about how this new belief is like a little sapling, right? And it's fragile and it could just get blown over by the first big rainstorm. The way you feed it and water it and turn it into a big, new, strong belief is, turn up the volume, as I like to call it, which is looking for evidence, finding ways that this is true. Let's go to the next slide. So when you look for evidence, there's a few concrete ways to do this. One thing I had someone help me with in one of the sales workshops that I took was to create what's called a brag book. And you can take any journal. I love paper products, so I bought a really beautiful journal and got a great pen, and I called this my brag book. And what you put in there is all the things that remind you that you rock at what you do. Right? Maybe it's a compliment you got from a former client, or maybe it's writing down the day that you closed that huge deal that looked like it was going south and then it actually closed. But the more you write these things down, the more it's going to strengthen your belief that, one, you're really good at this, two, selling is fun, selling is service, and you're going to start having a very different attitude when you go into your sales calls. You can also do this by opening up a little note on your phone. And every time something good happens, write it in that note. If you have an iPhone, really easy to do, and it'll sync across your computers. I know that I reread that in my phone before almost every sales call. I'll just go in and look at all the wins, and I call it wins. And I just put anything positive that happens in there. Because, mindset work, it's not a once and done kind of thing. You have to keep cultivating this positive mindset. We know that sales takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of positivity. So here's how you keep that energy and that positivity up. The other thing you can do is set an alarm, maybe for 11 a.m. every day. Do this for 10 days. And when that alarm goes off on your phone, just spend 5 or 10 minutes writing down whatever the evidence is that your new beliefs are true, that you are serving people, that people are grateful for your help, that you are good at closing, that this is fun. And soon you'll find those new beliefs will not be the fragile little sapling. They'll be the big oak tree with the positive emotion attached to it, leading you to take lots of awesome action around selling and closing. Slide.
Before we move to the next slide, Julia, how do you feel about attaching a motion to the emotion of closing? This is something I got from Tony Robbins, who also started out as an NLP practitioner. And, he always does this thing. Whenever I close a deal, once I close Zoom and make sure it's closed, or leave somebody's office and they can't see me, or I'm off the phone, I always go, yes. And, that anchors that feeling for me. How do you feel about something like that?
Nice. I think that's a great idea. I mean, there's so many great ways of ramping up and turning up the volume. And if having emotion, like yes, or maybe it's always texting someone on your team. I have someone on my team. We always text when we, enroll someone into our program. So I think that's terrific. I love it. So once you have these new beliefs really ingrained in you, guaranteed you're going to start seeing new results, because everything we have in our life is really a result of our thoughts. And so if you can suspend judgment a minute, which is hard to do, of the results you have in your life that you don't like, maybe it's, your close rate, maybe it's the amount of money you have, maybe it's the amount of money you get paid, anything that you have you don't like really originally came from a thought that became a belief that has a positive or negative emotion attached to it, usually a negative. And so I want you to be tracking this in your own life and see how these changes come about, because then you can tackle some other belief and get new results there too in the professional or personal arena. Slide.
Before we move on, I know that a lot of people, including myself, suffer from imposter syndrome. Any thoughts on that? A lot of people who I coach, and I know I've talked about this with my coach, it's like, I'm not really as good as I think. And I know other people tell me great stuff and they get great results, but in our heads, we have this, that little voice that's always talking to us, oh, you're just an idiot. Why would anybody listen to you? How do you get past that when you are, saying positive things, writing them down, anchoring and all that stuff? How do you get rid of that little voice, that last little bit?
Well, I actually think that voice you may never get rid of, and it sort of doesn't matter because at least in my sales method, I invented a sales method called the CURE method, CURE. It's not about me. It doesn't really matter if I have imposter syndrome. It's really just all about them. So I think you could just throw out the question, to be honest, right? Like, yes, we all have imposter syndrome and we all deal with it in different ways. Now we move on. And if you have a method that you use on every single sale. And Jeff, actually, I would be curious if you do teach your students a method and what that method is, because in my method, you're so focused on the other person that it sort of doesn't matter what your, imposter syndrome is. And of course, doing these wins and all that reinforces the notion that even if there's that little mean voice saying you don't deserve to be here, you have pages and pages of evidence that, yes, you do.
Yes. And of course, like you, I teach it's all about the other person. It's not about us at all. And I'm 100% on board with what you said earlier. Sales is all about service. It's how can I help you? And sometimes that means you're saying, I can't really help you. Let me introduce you to somebody else. But if I can, I'm going to bend over backwards to make sure that I help you get the results that you're looking for. So I'm with you 1,000,000%.
And last week I had 2 calls in a row. I'm enrolling for my main program right now, $1 Million Women Masterclass, where on this first call I had, I was like, yeah, I don't think she's a fit. And I just didn't even go there. I was like, yes, I think you should read my book and, maybe get in touch again if you feel like it. Next call, also not a fit. And, a lot goes into vetting in my company. So that was sort of surprising, right? There were 2 in a row, not a fit. But it felt really good to just be like, yeah, you know what? Actually, I don't think this is for you. And then, of course, the next 5 calls were amazing and they were perfect fits. And so I think whenever we have that feeling of abundance, right? Like, well, the right people will come to me and I'll just run my process. And if they're fit, they'll enroll or sign up or buy or whatever your word is, the people watching. And the people who are not a fit, that's okay. We're not for everyone. There's 7.4 billion people on the planet and we can't work with all of them. Super. Let's go to these points. I think if you hit the arrow, some points are going to show up. So yeah, here is what I suggest you do before every meeting. And this is mindset practices. And I have a feeling that Jeff teaches a lot of the same, but maybe I have different words for them. Yes, he's saying yes. So I always visualize success before each meeting, because speaking of imposter syndrome and that, negative voice in your head, we all have it. Arianna Huffington famously calls it the obnoxious roommate who lives in my head. And so before every call, you want to really get focused on, hey, what's success going to look like here? How great is this person going to feel when we get off this call and they have now solved their problem? How fun is it going to be when they're in my community? How terrific is it going to be to call my colleague and say, hey, the deal went through? So you just want to get very focused on that, not because that's going to manifest the outcome, right? I'm like the least woo-woo mindset coach you will ever meet. But what it does do is quiet down those negative voices and gives you something to focus on that is super positive and gets you in that great positive state. The second thing is what Jeff and I both talked about, right? It's not about you, it's about them. So everything you can do to get into their world, and that's what this last point is about. I call it wearing their hat. What I like to do is before I get on a call, I will research the person, and you can find out a lot these days online, right? I try to get a picture of them from LinkedIn or Facebook. And granted, I'm in a B2C sales mode. We have our online courses. But if you're dealing with an individual, let's say it's B2B, you're always selling to a person, whether it's B2B or B2C. So find out as much as you can. If you can get a picture, great. If you can't, go back and reread the emails, understand their tone, and just try to wear their hat. Like, what are they thinking about today, right? Like today, I'm thinking about the fact that I'm jumping on a train at 5:30 and going upstate to spend the weekend in this cute town called Cold Spring. But maybe the person I'm talking to has a newborn and is going to spend all weekend, receiving family and taking care of their newborn. What are they thinking about right now? So that when you jump on the phone, you're already kind of in their world and you're not focused on what you're doing. You're focused on, oh, hey, how's your newborn? What's that been like? Is she sleeping through the night yet? Let's go to the next slide.
Will you be heading to the Buddhist temple up in Cold Spring?
I have been there before. Thank you for asking. Not this time. This is a hiking weekend. But yeah, that's a great spot. So I have a theory that killer closers, and that's a term that I use a lot in my community because Jeff and I actually talked about this in this clubhouse room where we met. We're both friends with the wonderful Joe Apfelbaum. I think, Jeff, you were saying that you felt if you do your job right, that the deal will just close. And I think that is partially true. But I also think there are things you can do to become what I call a killer closer, because I've met a lot of people who are good at everything up to the close, and then they blow it on the close. So when I teach sales, I like to teach sales, but I also teach closing as its own skill. And so while we don't have time to get into all that today, I wanted to give you one slide on what I believe killer closers do. So first of all, they have a great process for pre-qualifying people. When I said that it was kind of surprising that I had 2 people in a row who are not a fit, that's because we have an amazing pre-qualifying system where people fill out a questionnaire. Sometimes my operations manager vets them. We know that my time is the most valuable. We also send people to other people on the team who close. But if someone gets to me, they have been massively pre-qualified, confirmed, the whole deal. So if you don't have a good system yet for that, that's something to get into place. Have a method, right? Sounds like Jeff is teaching you a great method. There are awesome methods out there, but killer closers don't wing it. And then you also have a pre-close phrase that's like a go-to phrase. Like, well, if we were able to get to the place where we agree on budget and timeline, would we be able to get a green light on this today, Jill? Right? And to have that up your sleeve so that you are doing what I call moving zealously to the close. Sometimes people move to the close with trepidation. Like, oh, well, I guess we'll follow up next week, right? That's like trepidation. But if you move zealously to the close, you say things like, well, great. Well, then if we can get this sorted out, is this something we can get a green light on today? That makes a big difference in closing. Overcoming objections, essential. I'm sure Jeff is teaching you that. Have those written down, do role play, practice them like crazy so that when they come up, the thing I always try to think when the objections come up is, this person's doing their job. That's their job to have objections, right? I don't buy things without kicking the tires. Why should they? And not to get thrown, not to take it personally, not to ever be thrown off by that, but just have all your answers ready to go. And last but not least, be able to talk about pricing. In my program, we call that speak up and shut up, because a lot of people do the whole, oh, it's $5,000, but we have a discount going, and if you can only pay $3,000, we could always do a payment plan. No. It's $5,000. And we have 2 ways of paying that. Would you like to hear what those are? Total confidence around pricing. And I'm sure Jeff covers that a lot. So I'm not going to go too into detail, but those are some of my little killer closer tips.
I could not agree more. I find that time after time, salespeople choke at the close, especially when they start talking about money. I had somebody pitching me about 2 weeks ago for a service I was very interested in. And, I'm always, when I'm being pitched, I'm listening to what they're trying to sell me, but I'm also listening to what they're doing. And we got to the end and I said, would you mind if I gave you some unsolicited advice? And he goes, sure, go ahead. Because, unsolicited advice is rarely welcome. I said, you did a fantastic job of selling to me. You were just great until the end when you asked me for the money. You blew it there, man. I could tell you were nervous about the number. Do you find that happens quite often, that you say the price and people give you pushback? He goes, all the time. I said, stop being nervous. State it clearly, state it emphatically, and state it as if, of course, they're going to want what you've got and that the money is very reasonable. Because if it's not, you're charging too much. And
I love that. Did he sign up for your program? He should have.
I wasn't selling him a program. He was selling me something. But
he should have signed up for your program and gotten help with that.
Well, he should be on one of our programs.
That's really funny. No, and I have the same issue when I have people selling to me. I'm always like, oh no, they're blowing it. And one of them did sign up for my $1 Million Women Masterclass, my 4-month business program. And we had a lot of fun when I was able to say to her, remember that moment you had me on the phone? Because she's a stylist. And she told me all about her services. And I wanted to sign up. I was dying to sign up. And we got to the end and she was like, okay, I'll send you a follow-up email. I was just like, no, come on. Make me go get my credit card. So, I'm sure we could geek out for a long time on all the things people blow in sales calls with us. You don't want to get on a sales call with Jeff or me. You really don't. All right, super. So I have my online program called Sales Cure, and this is a DIY 3 to 5 hour program where you learn my method, CURE, which is connect, uncover, recognize, explain. And a lot of women, but also men, have used this to not only learn how to sell with more confidence and clarity, but to train their team. Because if you're an entrepreneur, usually you're looking to not be the only one doing sales. You can be the bottleneck if you're the only one doing sales. And we've had a lot of people train their team, including Kristen Gallagher, who runs a PR firm, and she closed a $30,000 deal the same day she learned Sales Cure. So I'm not promising that's going to happen to you, but it can happen. Let's go to the next slide. And then our signature program is this 4-month online business program. So I'll just say a word on that because we have one starting right now. And during the 4 months, we help you scale up your business, everything from distribution to strategy, mindset. It's like getting an executive MBA, but at an affordable price and with other women committed to scaling up their businesses. Don't know if we have any women on the call, but maybe you have friends who are female entrepreneurs and who are looking to go big in business. So feel free to send them my way. You can just give them this email, alyssa@juliapim.com, or they can find a place to set up a call at scalewithjulia.com. Maybe you could throw that in the chat, Jeff. Just scalewithjulia.com, just how it sounds. Slide. We'll just skip through this slide. This is what we teach in the program. We have business coaching. We have a curriculum, mentorship. Let's keep going. Slide. There's the price. I'm not going to get too into this because I think we don't have that many women on the call, but we are offering a special rate for anyone who's been in a live workshop for me. We take $1,000 off. This is a $18,000 value, this program. Let's keep going.
Actually, there's at least one woman on the call.
Awesome. Happy to hear it. Well, if she's an entrepreneur, I hope she'll reach out. We do a free 45-minute call where we go over what your obstacles are to scaling up. So even if you don't join the program, you learn a lot about where you need to make changes in your business. So I definitely recommend reaching out if you are a female business owner, or perhaps you have a friend or a spouse or a partner who's a female business owner. Slide. Some of our graduates. Slide. There we go. Last slide, just letting you know where you can find me. I'm very active on Instagram and Facebook at Julia Pimsleur. And we also have the @MDW community, that's $1 Million Women community, on Instagram and Facebook. And happy to take some questions if there's time, Jeff. Oh, I think you're still muted. Jeff. Will you unmute?
You're absolutely right. Thank you. Awesome. Fran Cole Hebler is here. Good morning, Fran, down in Texas. Keith Ginsburg, I think, is saying when you get to Cold Spring, you should also go to the Japanese Stroll Garden.
Oh, thanks for the tip. I love it. Thanks, Keith.
If anybody has any questions for Julia, please drop them in the chat now. And while we're waiting, I have some questions for you. Awesome. You're a master NLP practitioner, coach, and I'm not sure that everybody understands what NLP is. Could you kind of talk about that just a little bit? What is NLP and how can it be used by salespeople?
Absolutely. So NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It's a rapid change psychology method that was invented in the 1970s. So it's fairly recent, but it quickly became a go-to for Olympic athletes, master coaches. Many of the presidents have been trained in it because it's highly useful for clearing limiting beliefs. Not sure if you know that term, but you may have heard of a limiting belief, but aren't quite sure what it is. A limiting belief is anything that you believe about yourself that is preventing you from getting what you want. So for instance, a limiting belief could be, I'm not the type of person who could make $500,000 a year, or I'm not the type of person who could run a multi-million-dollar company. That's a limiting belief. It's not a fact, but it feels like a fact. So NLP is very good at helping you clear those and replace them with empowering beliefs, which, you know, if you were on this whole workshop, is the key to taking different actions and getting different results.
Kind of like money is the root of all evil, which isn't even the actual quote from the Bible, but that's a limiting belief. Absolutely.
And some people grew up with parents who talked about money like it was, you know, a bad thing that shouldn't ever be mentioned. He who shall not be named, right? from Harry Potter. Yeah, that does create limiting beliefs. Or if perhaps you have a family member who you feel they were the smart one, maybe you're the creative one. I hear that a lot, that people feel like, well, that's not who I was. Sometimes kids get pigeonholed early in life in their families, and they have to clear those limiting beliefs to see new opportunities. This is an exercise also I have in the book, Jeff, in Go Big Now. I get you to write down your limiting beliefs and really understand what that's causing in your life, and then commit to getting rid of them. And there's a 4-step exercise to get rid of them. So it's pretty easy to implement.
And when you work with clients on a coaching basis, this is the type of thing you help them with?
So I'm a scaling coach. I work on helping women scale up their businesses, but I found that without doing the mindset work, there's no point in teaching business skills unless the foundation is there. And mindset is the foundation. You can't build a mansion on quicksand, right? So I start with mindset coaching, and then we move on to the business skills, and everything just goes so much faster that way.
Yeah, I do the same thing. When I do sales coaching for people, we don't just work on the here's how you sell. It's also, about 40% is mindset work and 60% is here's how you sell. You also say that often the difference between those who are truly going to make it and those who don't is confidence, not competence. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, I think a lot of people have a high competence level and yet they blow it. So don't you all know someone who's super smart but hasn't really achieved their full potential? So being smart is not enough. And by the way, being hardworking is not enough either. A lot of us were socialized, especially women and minorities, that if you just work harder, you will get to success. And in fact, what we usually need is a big mindset shift. And that's, again, why I wrote Go Big Now, because that's what helped me get to the next level in my business, was having that big mindset shift. I was working so hard, Jeff, and it wasn't really making a big difference. So I think that when we embrace the fact that mindset is the key, then we can start building the business skills on top of that. And that's the confidence I'm talking about. Once you have the right mindset, you feel amazing and excited, and that transfers to other people too.
Gotcha. And what is have, do, be as opposed to be, do, have?
So this is one of the mindset practices I teach in the book. I think I have it here. Here we go. Go Big Now. Yeah. So one of the things my coach taught me when I was getting mindset coaching was to practice what she called be, do, have. And be, do, have is the opposite of how 99% of people live their lives. I'm hearing the feedback. Do you mind echoing again? It's just muting. Thank you. So 99% of the planet live according to have, do, be, which is here's how much money I have, or here's how much education I have, or here's how much family support I have. And therefore, here's what I can do. And therefore, here's who I can be in the world. Now, that's very limiting. Often that stops you in your tracks, right? Oh, well, I don't have a college degree, so I can't do that. Jeff mentioned Tony Robbins earlier. He's famous for saying, I don't have a PhD, but I have a PhD in results. And I love that line. So here is what be, do, have is. It's the opposite of how 99% of the planet lives. And this is what we need to do if we want to achieve, big, exciting things. If you don't want to achieve big, exciting things, you don't have to do mindset work. If you want to sit on your couch and eat potato chips, your mindset's fine, seriously. But to do big, exciting things, you likely will need a mindset shift. And here's how be, do, have works. Who do I want to be in the world? Do I want to be someone who's making $1 million a year? Do I want to be someone who is moving the needle for women entrepreneurs? Do I want to be someone who's a highly respected sales coach like Jeff? So what would that person be doing? That's the do. And then you start doing those things even before you feel you're ready. So in my case, when I wrote my first book, I wanted to help women grow their businesses. So I started teaching on weekends. I started writing articles. I started joining organizations where I could coach women. And then eventually you get to the have. If you say, here's where I want to be, and you start doing those things, eventually you will have the things that person would have. And in my case, after teaching women and writing for Forbes and joining organizations for women, I pitched the idea of my first book, $1 Million Women, to an editor at a big 5 publishing company. It's now big 4. And I thought she was going to say no, because she said, well, I have a lot of proposals just like that on my desk. A lot of women want to write about women entrepreneurs right now. It's a hot topic. So I thought, oh, here comes the no. And she said, but I want you to write this book, and we're going to give you a 6-figure advance. And here's why. You're clearly an expert on this. You've been writing about it. You're coaching women. You seem to know more than anybody I've talked to about it. So we want you to write the book. That's a perfect example of be, do, have. If I'd started with have, well, guess what? I'd never written a book. I didn't have credentials as an author. I wasn't rich and famous. I didn't have that. I really didn't have anything you needed to write a book and become a thought leader on this topic. But I flipped it and did be, do, have. And that's what got me here doing the work I love.
Wow, incredible. Let's talk a little bit about gratitude. It's a very high space. How can adopting an attitude of gratitude help us in sales?
doing a gratitude practice, and it's something we really need to commit to. I call it a gratitude practice, not just doing gratitudes every so often, because if you commit to it, it builds up an incredible foundation in you of mental resilience. So for instance, I write every night 6 to 8 things I'm grateful for in a gratitude journal that I keep. And when I sit to have dinner with my 2 boys, I have 2 boys who are 13 and 16, we start dinner with, hey, what are 3 things you're grateful for? Just a quick go around. It's not like grace. We don't have to not eat, right? So we share 3 things we're grateful for. And doing this just keeps you in an attitude of gratitude, I know is a common expression, but keeps you in a positive mental state. Because, you've probably all heard that expression, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% attitude. And, what happens when what happens to you is a pandemic, right? This was such a huge mindset test for the entire world this past year. Having these mindset practices, I will just speak for myself personally, totally saved me, from getting into despair or, feeling anxious. I spent the entire pandemic coaching other people because all this mindset work I've been doing for years really paid off. I was also finishing my book, so that kept me pretty busy.
Got it. And when I was roaming around your website looking for things to talk to you about, I noticed that you're big on vision boards. For those who don't understand, can you please explain what a vision board is and how that would help us?
Yes. So you might remember I was recommending earlier that you visualize success. So this is not because, magic, it's going to appear because you thought about it. It's because your unconscious will always be looking for the things that you ask it to look for. So if you create a vision board, which is very simply cutting out images that speak to you, that make you happy, that remind you of things you want to do. Like on my vision board, I have going scuba diving. I'm a PADI certified scuba diver. That's on there. Trips with my boys is on there. My book, Becoming a Success Before It Was Done, was on there. And it's right up on my wall where I can see it every day. So 1, it's an instant happiness boost every time I walk by it. And 2, it's reminding your unconscious to look for those things, because we have about 11 million bits of information coming at us every single minute. And we can only process about 125 of those. So we're constantly deleting, sorting, and distorting what comes through. When you do a vision board and when you do some of this mindset training, you're training your mind to look for the things that you want to bring about in your life. And so while, again, it doesn't make them appear like that, we have so many stories in our community of women who created vision boards, and then they come back a few months later and are like, I went to that exact, trip, that exact resort that I put on my vision board. Or in my case, I had cut out pictures of these cute little puppies, and 1 year later, I had adopted that exact same breed unintentionally and had that very puppy in my life. So I don't know if that's something you've ever done, Jeff, but we love doing vision boards in our community. And I have a blog about how to make a vision board that you could find at juliapimsleur.com. Go to the blog section, and if you scroll down a little, you'll see instructions about how to make your own. Have you ever done one?
I do believe in them. I do have one, absolutely, 100%. I believe in the law of attraction, that what you focus on consistently tends to be attracted in your life. I think the one thing that the book and the movie, The Secret, left out is that it's not just about feeling the right feelings and thinking the right thoughts. You also have to take massive action, because things don't just fall out of the sky just because you're thinking about them. But yeah, I'm a big believer in vision boards.
Well, that's the do in be, do, have, right?
Yep.
You can't just say, oh, here's where I want to be, and it magically happens. You got to do the do part, the massive action, 100%.
Yes, 100%. So, I do visualize sales calls before I go on them, whether it's physically or on a Zoom call or anything else. And part of that is I see the other person happy to meet with me and shaking my hand, and we're laughing and having a great conversation. And I always visualize them at the end of the conversation, reaching into a desk drawer and pulling out stacks of $100 bills and handing them over to me, and happy to do it. So yeah,
I love that. That's very specific. I love it.
Oh yeah, cash is king. How does one delight instead of deter their customers?
Oh, you did look at my blogs, didn't you?
I did.
That's one of my blogs, yes. Look, the fact is, customer service matters more than ever. People can find things really cheaply on the internet. If you're trying to win on cheap, that's going to be a race to the bottom. So I highly recommend that people get very focused on how do I delight my customer. The king of that was Tony Hsieh, recently departed, but he was the founder of Zappos. And if you haven't read the book Delivering Happiness, I highly recommend you check it out. Zappos, if you don't order shoes online like I do, is an online service where you can order shoes, and they'll send you 5 pair and you try on, you keep the ones you like, and you send the other ones back for free. It was a brilliant idea he had. But this thing almost fell on his face. When he first started Zappos, it wasn't doing very well. He had a couple thousand customers and the business wasn't growing. And he started to think, oh, maybe I made a mistake here. I need to shut this thing down. But instead, he gathered his team and he doubled down on customer service. He said, let's be known for the most amazing customer service out there. And he implemented a number of things in his company that made that so. And if you ever, order something from Zappos, I highly suggest you call the customer service line, because they will spend a half an hour on there with you, picking out the right shoes. I remember I was going to the White House at one point for a tour, and they were helping me to get the shoes to match my outfit. And when the shoes arrived, there was a little note in there with it saying, enjoy the tour of the White House. Pretty amazing. That is what I'm talking about. Delight, not deter. And deter, we all know what that looks like, right? When you call your bank and you have to go through 18 different pressing buttons and getting transferred only to find out you're still not with the person you want to talk to. We all know what bad customer service looks like.
Yeah, talking about coming from service. I mean, he felt that they weren't really a shoe company. They're a customer service company that just happened to sell shoes. And their customer service, I ordered some winter boots one time, and I put them on when I got them. I was walking the dog, and it felt like there was a rock in my shoe. And it turned out there was a nail coming up from inside the shoe, because I looked at the bottom. I hadn't stepped on a nail. It was inside the shoe. And I called them, and they were magnificent. First of all, he empowered all his employees to take care of stuff. They didn't have to go to a supervisor. It was just, I'm going to take care of you. And the cool thing was, it was really amazing. I was astounded. They no longer had the size of the shoe that I bought from them, so they could not replace them. And I didn't want a refund. She actually went, while I was on the phone with her, to another website and ordered them from another company for me and had them shipped to me. And I said, how do I get the shoes I've got back to you? She goes, if you pull up the insole, pull out the nail, you can either keep them or donate them to somebody. And I mean, why would I buy from anybody else after they deliver that kind of service? It's brilliant. So I'm with you a million percent.
Brilliant, right? And so how do we make that relevant for the people on this call, Jeff? What does that look like when you're a salesperson? If you're not selling shoes, but what would you recommend?
I recommend that we always remember that we can't be there just to earn a commission. Customers, prospects can smell commission breath. They can smell need and greed like dogs smell fear. So truly our come from has to be, like I said before, I'm here to serve you. My best friend is a divorce attorney. My best friend since high school. I know him for a million years. And he actually prays before he goes into a meeting, because divorce is not a pretty sight, and people are often very, very angry at each other, and he has to deal with other attorneys and people who are pissed off. And he actually closes his eyes and prays to God and says, God, just give me the strength to serve these people in a way that's going to help them get through this horrible thing. And it's all about your come from. If you're coming from, I need to make some money to pay the rent, I get it. I've been there. But you really have to put that aside, no matter how bad your circumstances are, and truly come from serving. Zig Ziglar said it, service, stop selling, start serving. And we actually have a question from Keith Ginsburg. He says, hi, Julia, what do you think is the fastest way to improve your mindset?
Other than reading my book?
That's true.
I couldn't resist. No, I have spent the last 15 years studying mindset and working with some of the top teachers, including Tony Robbins. And I wanted to just make it easier and more accessible for people to get at what I feel are the 8 essential practices. The subtitle is the 8 essential mindset practices to overcome any obstacle and reach your goals. So if you're already on your mindset journey, or if you're just getting started, grab the book, do the exercises. My tip is going to be to get there faster. Do the exercises in writing. Some people, say, oh, there's exercises. Yeah, I won't do that part. Well, guess what? It doesn't have as big an effect if you don't do the exercises. There's a 10-page, beautifully designed workbook that you get for free on my website when you buy the book. So check it out.
And this book is not just for women, right? It's for men also?
Correct. And the examples are men and women who've gone through some really big mindset shifts in order to achieve something seemingly unachievable. Like one example I gave was Peter Dinklage. I don't know if you have any Game of Thrones fans, but I love the game. Yes, love Game of
My
Thrones.
favorite character.
Isn't he amazing, right? Tyrion Lannister. And he started out, for folks who don't know him, he was born with a disease, which I can't remember the name of, but he only grew to about 4 feet tall. And so he decided he wanted to be an actor, but he kept getting cast as, the midget, the weird sidekick. And he was like, no. I want to be the romantic lead. And he had such a powerful mindset around that. And he visualized it and he was determined and he did not, waver on that commitment, that he ultimately wound up getting romantic leads and then became, arguably the best, most sought after and most lusted after character in Game of Thrones. So that's an incredible mindset story that I told in the book. And there are many others, not just from the business world, but some business examples as well.
My sister flew in. I hadn't seen her in about 7 years. She flew in from Vegas last week. And I said, what do you want to do? I mean, there's not a heck of a lot to do. We can't really go swimming yet in the ocean. She goes, I never saw Game of Thrones. Can we watch that? And we binge watched five seasons of Game of Thrones over a 6-day period.
So fun. I'm jealous.
I was in heaven. She was like, do you mind doing this? I said, mind? Are you kidding me? This is the 6th time I've watched it. It's amazing. And truly, Tyrion really is my favorite character by far. He's the greatest.
The camera loves that guy. The camera just loves him.
It was just, it's a brilliantly written character, and he acted it brilliantly too. Just great. Keith Ginsburg says, thank you for your answer, Julia. I have one more question for you if you have time before we go. One more?
Yes. And the other thing I would say for Keith is I do have a free download on my website called the 12 Mindset Practices of Successful CEOs and Leaders. It's just a little 2-pager with lots of cool examples like the Peter Dinklage one I just gave. So feel free to download that and check it out. Anyone.
Right. And after this is over, guys, I'll go back in and I'll enter Julia's information into the chat or into the on Facebook, underneath where the video is, or Julia, you're welcome to come in and do it. You're a member of our Sales Pro Network. The last question I have for you was another one that I saw from your blog, which I love. What is the concept of running backward?
Oh, yes, running backward. Well, that's about team leadership, because I find that CEOs often have this problem where they want to hire people who are as driven, committed, talented, quick thinking as they are. And then when they hire someone, and it could be a salesperson, and that person doesn't get it right away or doesn't have the same intuition of hey, what's revenue generating and what's not revenue generating, then they're not willing to do what I call running backwards. And this came from an experience I had where I joined a running club here in New York. And I was so excited to be part of a running club. But, I'm in my early 50s and I'm in pretty good shape. But we took off this running club. There were about 10 of us. And within minutes, they were like out of sight. They were just gone, Jeff. And they were on like 30, whatever they were. But I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll catch up. But then I didn't. And at one point, I saw that 3 or 4 of them had turned around and were kind of running backwards. Like they were running towards me to get me, right? Because it was a running club, so we could carry on together. Now, that would be a lovely story, except that, believe it or not, that was a mirage. I actually had a mirage that 3 of them turned around and came back to get me. My mind just played tricks on me. I think I just couldn't actually compute that this running club would just leave a new member in the dust and not even turn around to look back for her. But it was such an educational moment because I was so disappointed and I got out of the park and said, okay, skip it, never going back to that. But I thought, how many team members, join a company and then feel like, yeah, no one's really looking out for me. Like, I don't know how to do this, and no one will take the time to run backwards for just, 100 yards to help me get in sync with the group. So maybe you're a salesperson who's amazing at closing deals and hunting down opportunities, and you have someone in the back office who's helping you to vet them or, tee you up for success. You might need to run backwards a couple times and show them the things that you know how to do and make them feel super included. That's what running backwards is all about.
It's fantastic. Any last words before we go? Any last tips for everybody?
Can't think of any. No, I'm sorry. This has been so much fun, though. I guess the only thing I would say is if you are working on mindset, really the key is to realize you have so much more agency than you ever thought possible. That is my ultimate message with all this mindset teaching, is that you really can learn to master your mindset and get very different results than you're getting now on the things you want to change. So I encourage everyone to go on that Go Big journey and let me know how that goes.
That's great. And again, either Julie or I will put her contact information, including her website, in the chat so that you can access her at any time. And where's the best place to get your book? Should we get it on Amazon or directly from your website?
It's on Audible. It's on Amazon. I have a link there on my website. It's also in bookstores. So anywhere books are sold. And this was so much fun, Jeff. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your brilliance generously. I truly appreciate it. And as I end all these, please, guys, remember, sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks. Bye.